Disclaimer: the following video contains an organized and objectified remix music tier list from the Super Smash Bros. Series. It contains provoking thoughts and concerns from each remix in the games, all coming from this one random guy on the internet. Music is subjective, so not everyone's thoughts and lists might match with myself and others, so please take this into consideration. There will be anger, rage, and a tiny hint of salt, so watch at your own risk. If you do enjoy this video, however, go ahead and give it a like and share it amongst your peers. And why not go ahead and comment on why my tier list is so bad and why my choices were not to your liking. I would love to see what you have to say after watching this video. All things considered, I do really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen in on what I have to say in this video. Now, without further ado, make sure you are in a comfy position with your headphones on. It's time for me to showcase the best of the best remixes that the Super Smash Bros. Series has to offer to you all. Please enjoy the video. Greetings everyone, and welcome back to the video series. Probably shouldn't even do introductions when I literally have a full minute intro at the start of every video. But I don't know, it doesn't feel right if I don't say hello for the first remix to be put up for each video. Should probably get on with it now. Today's first remix is going to be just a nostalgia trip for me. No way, shape, or form of this being a top-class remix for fighting, but I really just enjoy it because of the memories. Nostalgia has a weird way with a lot of people, but honestly, this remix can go pretty well with an intense fight in Smash 2. This is the ground theme from Super Mario Bros. Found on the NES, but the remix also covers the underground theme, which has a bunch of small variations across this Smash remix. Can't get any more of a simpler explanation than that. This version of the ground theme was made in Melee, and taking the helm is none other than Shogo Sakai, so you already know that this was going to be a banger from the start. The piece uses a MIDI for the entirety of the track, but it is done really well in a very tropical and whimsical way with an orchestra and electronic drum beats. When you use some headphones, you can definitely feel the synthy techno nature that this remix has, but it's not entirely a bad thing, especially in early 2000s standards. Back in the day when I was 6, oh man, that was such a long time ago, I really enjoyed the stages and music that came with the entire Melee package, just like with a lot of other Melee stages that I previously mentioned in my other videos, with its own music picks. I just really love the Mario franchise, like a lot, and pretty much had every Mario game on the GameCube. Yeah, I was a super fan, and I still am to this day. What can I say, the mustachioed man just has a special way of bringing fun every single time a new game comes out, with his face and name on it. So pretty much this remix is nostalgia-pilled all the way through, and if I'm being super critical, I should have really put this remix back into 300 to 200 spots, maybe even closer to the late 100s. The remix has no tempo increase from the original and doesn't have that intense factor. The charm is the only thing that this remix excels at. But like I said before, it can be a good time to play in one-on-one fights, but honestly there are some other remixes that are just way better for that fight-centric feeling. There will be a few more remixes, mostly for Melee and Brawl, that are very nostalgic based in this top 100. Hopefully some of you guys will accept that. This is my tier list after all, but if I happen to have a revision for this tier list in the future, this remix would most likely be in the middle of the pack. But I'm happily content with putting this remix here at rank 75 of the tier list for this run. Next up is another Pokemon remix that was featured in the Generation 6 titles on the 3DS, X and Y. This is a trainer battle theme for these games, and it plays anytime the player runs into various trainers across the game to battle them. Fun fact is that this is the first of second trainer battle themes that are featured on this tier list. Kind of funny how most of these Pokemon remixes for Smash never really involved battle music, but for the remixes that did make it in, every arranger made each of their battle themes great. Practically all of the Pokemon battle themes that were made as Smash remixes are in the upper half of my personal tier list, so it makes a lot of sense since battle themes are meant to be intense and exciting for fighting games. Anyways, I went too off topic about that little tangent. Time to go over the actual remix now. Just like with the original song, which uses an orchestral rock style, the Smash remix basically takes the same concept with improved music since the original was made on the 3DS with compression in mind. While originality might play a factor with this remix not being too high up on my tier list, the music honestly speaks for itself. It is really intense with the electric guitars and orchestra going back and forth. The melody is truly mesmerizing and a wonder to behold, and the background bass and drum kit also play a good role in providing great beats while not subduing any of the instruments that are featured in the melody. The music is just super great, and I hear people saying this might be the best battle trainer theme in the entire Pokemon franchise. And I might have to agree with those people here, cause it was super great on the original 3DS version too. It's just Yuzo Koshiro just happened to make this remix more livelier with updated instrumentation, and I'm glad he did that. If it weren't for a few Ultimate remixes that are not to be named yet, then I would believe this would have been one of the best Pokemon remixes for the Smash series. Just like with the Breath of the Wild 2017 background music trailer remix, I feel kinda bad putting this remix here due to the originality aspect, but that's how I depict things for these rankings. Otherwise, this could be a contender for, I'd say a top 25 remix. Love it every time when this remix pops up in a Smash game. Alright folks, strap in, cause we are finally at our last Smash remix to feature English and Japanese vocals. We have a lot to go over for this last lyrical remix, so no crazy intro banter this time. This is the Psycho Soldier theme for the game with the same name, Psycho Soldier, that came out in 1987 for arcades, and is played on its first level as well as the end credits for the game. What's really cool about this original theme is that this is actually the very first video game composition to include actual lyrics. A very huge stepping stone for video game music that came after it with lyrics, and should be respected as such. The female vocalist Kanako Kotera uses her amazing singing talent here, and sings both the Japanese version as well as the English version, which is aptly named Psycho Soldier Theme Overseas Version. What you're hearing right now is the overseas English version of the remix, due to reasons I already discussed when going through other lyrical remixes I presented that had two different language remixes. But with me saying that, both Japanese and overseas versions of this remix are actually quite different from one another. The Japanese version of the remix has 3 verses in between each chorus, while the overseas version only has 1 verse from the beginning and ending of the song, with the Psycho Soldier chorus playing at the end of each verse. A bit of a downgrade to the overseas version, I will admit. And even more of a downgrade to that version is that the verses have the singer playing the same exact lines from beginning to end, while the Japanese version has different verses and lines throughout the whole track. I'll have to give it up for the Japanese sub fans for this one. You guys finally have a W under your belts. However, the overseas version has a very distinct saxophone solo at the middle of the piece, to make up for that lack of verses from its counterpart. And ah man, that sax do be saxing up a storm, cause it really hits hard. A bit of a shame that the Japanese version doesn't have that cool sax solo, but it's pretty nice that both versions of this remix have different aspects to stand out from one another. Besides all of those differences, the music here in this remix is just remarkable. The tempo is increased drastically from the original, and the music is exceptionally done with an orchestral rock style with electric guitars and a string section playing the melody, with a backing bass guitar and drum set. And the final verse of the song plays with a full key step before looping back. Never would I have guessed that this remix and the Ashley song remix would go pretty well while playing in a game of Smash, but they really do. It was really hard for me on which of these lyrical remixes were better than the other, but I ended up going with Cycle Soldier to take the cake for this. Might be due to recency bias since this remix is much newer and made for that ultimate intensity in mind, but this remix seriously did the old 1987 original song justice with the updated presentation, more so than Ashley's song, even if that remix also did the original justice too. Anyways, that is really all of the lyrical remixes for Smash that I went over. Some people might not like them and could be a hindrance or annoying to play while in a game of Smash, but I believe it can create good atmosphere in battles to me personally, and I quite like almost all of them in Smash. This is also sadly Yuzo Koshiro's last remix on the tier list as well, and what an absolute marvel that he made for his last remix. A lot of people really like this guy's original video game compositions. I know I gave him a lot of shit at the beginning of this project, but I will admit he really makes some amazing compositions for various video games that he made over the years, and he is still not done yet. Hope he makes some incredible bangers in the future, and I'm hoping that those bangers will correlate to my music taste for the next Smash game in that process. Alright, here's another one of those nostalgia pill takes for my tier list. But I assume no one will question me about putting this pick here for the tier list, right? One can only hope. This is another variation of the gourmet race theme from Kirby Superstar on the Super NES, where Kirby and King Dedede race to the finish while eating as much food as they can. This melee version is an orchestral music style which uses a grand orchestra instead of a MIDI this time around. And man, this orchestra is just straight up magical every time I listen to it. The strings and woodwind instruments are very fleeting, the brass are very powerful, and the piano and percussion do an amazing job to settle that impactful play, to give it that bit of tension that really gives it a kick when playing it in Smash. Obviously, since this is an only orchestra piece and nothing else with a profound gimmick or a musical variation, I kinda want to put this here due to the fact that I would much rather listen to Smash music that has that rocking, exciting factor. The melee version of Gourmet Race has a few slow parts and I just can't hear it at times when battles get too intense, where I'm locked in to fight. But when those crescendo measures come in, man, it is bliss in my eardrums and I always know that they're coming. Satisfying every time. For my Smash Melee tournament brethren, I am forever thankful that you have Fountain of Dreams as one of your legal stages, where this remix always plays at. It never gets boring listening to this while at tournaments across the country. Although I guess it might be boring for you guys. I'm hoping that's not the case. Kinda wish the Ultimate Tournament scene can get their heads out of their asses and finally legalize this stage for tournament play. Especially when one of the updates fixed the lag spikes and it is now at a consistent frame rate. Like, come on guys, throw us a bone here. I just really want to listen to Kirby music in tournaments again. we are finally entering the good Zelda remix territory now. I know I wasn't very kind on a few Zelda remixes for Smash. Actually, pretty much all of them are just god-awful that I put at the bottom end on my tier list. But for these last few Zelda remixes, I think I deem very exceptional in my opinion. We have Gerudo Valley to cover today, and it is played originally in the masterpiece that is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This plays in the namesake for the title, Gerudo Valley. This is one of the later areas of the game where Link traverses across this godforsaken valley and desert. The original track had a very Spanish-like style with the acoustic guitar, horns, and clapping sounds presented. While this remix also has that same Spanish-like influence, the tempo has been vastly increased and uses many more instruments, such as a drum set, strings, bongos, and an ocarina, which is a great callback to the original game. And this fucking acoustic guitar that plays in the melody is much more apparent and loud, and it goes super off with every note it plays. Major props to this guitar player because he is a superstar in my eyes. Or my ears instead, because, you know, I can't actually see him. I just, hear the music instead. Okay, sorry, bad joke. But yeah, this remix just hits all the right marks in every single way, and I couldn't be happier. Unfortunately, the rest of the remixes I have are just a bit better than this one, and having the same original style to the original song kinda cost it some points. But man, hearing this remix play in the background of my Smash matches is such a treat personally. Makes me feel like I'm in a rodeo or in a bullfight, where I have to read my opponents being dumbasses by overextending, and then I throw them over to the abyss to win the game. Smash is certainly a crazy and fun experience, and I couldn't have it any other way in my life. And the hot remix takes don't stop there. For rank 69, nice. Next up is the Valedictory Elegy. This plays in the GameCube game, Baten Kaitos Origins, a turn card-based RPG that was released back in 2006, and is the game's main battle theme when fighting against reoccurring enemies. Motoi Sakuraba, who made music for this game, also reprises his role as the arranger for this remix, and he certainly doesn't disappoint one bit here. The music style for this remix is very similar to what was found in the original game, being an orchestra style with a leading violin playing the melody throughout the entire piece. And just like with Gerudo Valley before it, the originality spectrum I put on for these types of remixes should be considered pretty low in that regard, since it is basically a rehash recycle kind of deal, just with updated presentation from old hardware to the new hardware. But also just like with the Gerudo Valley remix, this remix has an insane composition with more dramatic string instruments and a choir to back up the music, with a slight increased tempo to boot. And seriously, this violin soloist who is another key star to be put up on that pedestal spotlight, my god, I am not kidding, when I heard this the first time, my jaw literally dropped to the fucking floor when that violin solo started playing in the middle of the piece, when this was playing in a Smash game back in Smash 4 on the Gaur Plain stage. After I finished that random game up, I immediately searched it up and began to listen to it over and over and over. It was just so goddamn cool to me. And of course it was Motoi Sakuraba who composed this piece. Like, who else could make some otherworldly epic shit like this? Dude is a genius. Anyways, I'm done singing my praises now. Sorry if this was such a biased pick to be put up here on the tier list, due to some lack of originality, and all that Sakuraba did was make the same type of music, more fast-paced and dramatic from his original works. But jeez, can you blame me? This remix is literally perfect for Smash fights, and I highly consider you all to play this next time you boot up the game. Trust me on this, your ears will thank you. Bet all of you Fire Emblem, and possibly Smash fans, were wondering where I put this remix at for this tier list. Well, here it is. This is with Milla's Divine Protection that originally plays in the NES game Fire Emblem Gaiden. This plays whenever the player controls the character Celica and her army through her beginning portions of the game, and can also be heard in the 2017 remake Shadows of Valentia as a more orchestrated version. Since this original piece was first found on the NES as a chiptune track, Noriyuki Iwadare managed to stylize this remix into a Spanish flamenco style, with various instruments playing the melody, such as an acoustic guitar, trumpets, violins, and a castanet, which is a unique Spanish percussion instrument that sounds like clappers. Although this remix has the same tempo from the original game, the stylized music is the star of the show here, and this definitely feels great when listening to this remix by itself, or in a game of Smash. This, however, is really not my go-to music style of choice here to be played in Smash, being that it is a bit Spanish-inspired. And, well, I was definitely uncultured for putting earlier entries for this type of music style pretty low on my tier list. Ones being that Legend of Zelda medley and the Vegas stage remix, for example. Not too sure why I decided to give this remix more credit than the others. Might just have been a nostalgia thing, which is true on all accounts. But I think we can all admit that the instruments here are superb and have a good steadiness of intensity without breaking that melodic structure. And the various instruments coming and going together to play the melody is such a good attention to detail to have, besides just having one instrument playing the melody all throughout. Good call by Iwadare there. Just having all of these different musical styles for a fighting game, like classical orchestra, rock and roll, chiptune, big band jazz, Japanese, and even Spanish-inspired such as this remix, makes Smash such an amazing sensation of music greatness. Another good reason when considering this remix a top-tier pick is that it plays in Brawl's Subspace Emissary mode, where Marth and Meta Knight traverse the barren battlefield to try and capture the Ancient Minister. Very nostalgic in that regard too. Oh man, I think I can see where this is gonna go. Now, before I see anyone hate commenting on this video before this explanation, yeah, I can see you typing there, Jake from Ohio. Let's back up a bit and let me explain why I put this very popular piece, like one of the most popular and memorable remixes in the history of Smash, on this spot of the tier list, and not as my, I don't know, top 10 or number 1 spot to a lot of you. This is Holland and Dalarna from Minecraft Dungeons, and these two themes play in various campsites where the player can go about their usual business before continuing on their adventure, like saving, getting new items and weapons, you know, game stuff. The first song to be featured here is Holland, where Dalarna is played secondly before looping back again to Holland. Compared to the soft and tranquil nature to the themes from the original game, the Smash remix to these two themes just seriously scaled all the way up to 20 with its vastly updated piano scores, such as the tempo and the intensity of the music to really drive home of this music piece being represented for a fighting game, and a damn good music piece for a fighting game at that. The piano is the main factor here, of course, but it is being backed up with electric guitars, strings, and a drum kit to get that electrified tension of duking it out in battle. And they even added a cool little choir humming a few chords after the Holland portion of the remix, which is such a cute little touch. A really cool tidbit about this remix is that just like with many other Smash stages that have transitions, and that some remixes correlate over to those transitions. For instance, the obstacle course theme for Yoshi's Island Brawl when the stage changes from summer to winter. For the Minecraft World stage with Hazards On, when this remix is playing, the daytime portion will play Holland, but when the stage transitions to night, it will then play the Dalarna section, and so on and so forth throughout the match. As I said before, I really love these cool little details, and I really hope that the next Smash game will do more of these dynamic changes with stage and music in the future. Okay, now it's time for me to bite the bullet and say why I'm bitter about putting this remix here on my tier list, even when I think that this is still an exceptional remix regardless. Well, after when Holland plays and Delarna shows up, it is just so slow and quiet. Seriously, I can hear myself think whenever this pops up, and I don't want to be thinking when playing Smash and just want to autopilot all the way through. I kid mostly, but seriously, when Delarna shows up, it is so soft and dull for a good majority of the time. Like, almost a full 30 seconds before it picks up to Holland again at the later end. I know it is supposed to replicate how the original song played back in Minecraft Dungeons, and the piano is still beautifully done here. But man, that slow portion when it plays in a Smash match really just pisses me off. I'm sorry that I have to be the one to say it here. Everything else is just so amazing, and yeah, I get the hype of this remix. It is just so good to not be very popular, but I just really hate it when Smash music just has slow parts where I want everything to be intense and exciting all the way through to make these one-on-one matches just so enjoyable. But again, this is just a take from this one random guy from the internet that you have every right to be angry at. So go ahead and lay it on me if you so desire. But just know that I did put this remix in my top 100 for a reason, and I hope at least a few of you can see that those intentions still matter for putting this very phenomenal remix on this spot of my tier list. Okay. Yeah, I guess I do deserve every hate comment I get from this video. Very justifiable now that I put not one, but two of the most popular remixes in Smash history in these spots of my tier list. I'll just get on with my explanation while you type away on why you want to see me mutilated for this insane hot take on how this is not in my top 10 favorite remixes ever made, or something like that. Well, this is Spiral Mountain from the original Banjo-Kazooie game back on the Nintendo 64, and plays in the very first area of the game, that is played as a beginning area for the player to learn on how to control Banjo and Kazooie for the rest of the game to come. For this remix, there are two very distinct musical styles at play. The first half of the remix has a very original bluegrass style which uses a fiddle, piccolo, tuba, various percussion instruments such as an xylophone, drum set, cymbals, and tambourine. And of course, the main star of the show is the banjo, as the namesake implies. There are also a wide variety of little musical Easter eggs that correlate to different worlds that Banjo and Kazooie explore in both the first game and Banjo-Tooie, the second game. Musical melodies such as Treasure Trove Cove, Free Easy Peak, Frosty Bucket Bay, Mahim Temple, and the hub world of Gruntilda's Lair get played during this section. Such fun details to be had here. Then at the middle point, the remix does a complete musical style makeover and is using a grand orchestra featuring everything you can expect from such. This is one of the few Smash remixes to use various different musical styles, and it was really done exceedingly well here by none other than Grant Kirkhope himself. Kirkhope was the original composer for the Banjo-Kazooie games, and in most of Rare's catalog of Nintendo 64 games, so it was really amazing and extremely bizarre that we finally got a Western composer here in Smash. Him and Toby Fox, who made Megalovania, are the only two Western composers for the entire Smash series to be featured here, while the rest are Japanese composers. While I do like both of these remixes a lot, I really wish we could have gotten more Western composers who could arrange remixes for Smash. Like for instance David Wise, who has a plethora of his music for the Donkey Kong Country franchise, which has been remade by other Japanese composers. Apparently, it is really hard to work with Westerners according to Nintendo, but I could be shooting blind about my theories here. Anyways, about this remix, which I haven't gone over much about yet. I do like it a lot. Please don't get it twisted. This is an amazing piece of art from a great composer such as Kirko, who has done a bunch of orchestrated music for various video games at this point, and the increased tempo is perfect and fits for a good actiony time in Smash. But I find the two styles to be quite jarring from being switched back and forth throughout this piece. I believe Kirko only wanted to make an orchestrated rendition of Spiral Mountain completely done without the bluegrass style, but Nintendo wanted to make an original format for this remix, done like in the original Nintendo 64 release. So Kirko ended up doing both of these styles conjointly to make this remix. He did a great job with both versions, but having the back and forth is a bit weird to me. And also, I like the music to be a bit more intense than this. I have a few more remixes fitting that intense description, and Spiral Mountain doesn't resonate with me that much in that aspect. Regardless, it was such a treat to finally see a Western composer arrange a remix for one of his original works for Smash. This remix is definitely a love letter to the fans of the Banjo-Kazooie franchise, and Kirko himself creating this was most likely a dream come true for him as well, creating a remix of his magnum opus. No wonder why this remix is one of the most popular remixes out there for the Smash series. Yeah, so coming back to that intense factor I was just talking about, we now have the only remix coming from Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, in Smash, this being O2 Battle. As the name implies, this plays during the final boss battle for the game, where Kirby and the Fairy Ribbon battle O2 to take back the crystals from Ripple Star. The original song was an electronic synth-focused song, which was very melancholy in comparison to the Smash remix. The remix still retains that electronic nature, but added an electronic drum beat, more intense synth presentation, and a faster tempo to the original to get that blood-pumping adrenaline that you love to hear in a Smash game. And since this is a remix that Koji Hayama made, he of course had to add in sound quips such as "Hey!" and "Ugh!" throughout the entirety of this remix, to make it more unique. And honestly, after hearing these sound clips for quite some time now since this was released back in Brawl, I've really started to enjoy those added little quips Hayama added, and dare I say that it made the remix that much better than just adding in an electronic drum beats and increasing the tempo for the entire remix. I don't know why, but I just get super hyped when listening to this piece over time, and I have a newfound appreciation for it now than when I didn't back as a teenager. This will be Koji Hayama's last remix featured here for this tier list. The wacky weird remixes that he produced for Brawl and Smash 4 still resonate with me on how these types of arrangements all come together, and was just so bizarre to be heard for a Nintendo game. But that is all part of the charm, right? That anything can be possible and creative, and somehow it just all works. Like the entire premise of Smash in general, for example. I appreciate this weird slice of music that Hayama produced, and would love to hear more unique and interesting remixes, like the ones he created in future Smash titles. It's that time again, people. Time to talk about more Mega Man remixes for the tier list. This time covering the Mega Man 2 medley. This medley plays 3 distinct themes from the game. At the start of the remix plays the level start jingle, where it plays when you pick out which Robot Master Mega Man confronts in their specific level. Then plays the title theme, and then at the end plays the Wily Castle theme, where at the end of the game, Mega Man traverses Wily's castle before looping back to the title theme. Since all of the music for the NES Mega Man games uses chiptune music, this remix similarly plays it in the same aspect with the chiptune music from the title theme and Wily's castle theme play alongside with a hard rock style of music, with electric guitars for the main melody and a bass and drum set in the background, creating a snazzy beat. As I said before, I'm not a huge fan of chiptune music, but similar to what was found with the King Bowser remix, when using the chiptune music in tandem with modern instruments, I find it truly special, and I feel they go perfect together to get that old school feel, as well as the coming age of the modern era. Mega Man music all throughout that 8-bit era had amazing arrangements, and Ryo Hamamoto knew that and kept the old music here to create just something so badass that everyone can appreciate. The hard rock presentation here is amazing, and I shouldn't say that this is a perfect remix for a Smash fight, but I will anyway. It's just that cool to fight when listening to this in the background. My one complaint here is the music choice selection, however. Like, it's called the Mega Man 2 medley, so shouldn't there be like, I don't know, more songs to play here instead of just 3? Well, technically 2, since you only hear the level start jingle in the first 10 seconds of the remix, and then never to be heard again. Both the title theme and Wily's Castle theme are iconic, but I find it a bit lackluster when you could also add other themes. But I guess they didn't want to do that since other Mega Man 2 songs were also remixed in Smash, so I guess they wanted the stages to have their own spotlight, which could make sense in a way. But not having the Robot Master boss fight in this remix, or in Smash in any capacity, is criminal. I would have put this remix top 10, no cap, if Hamamoto added that theme into this medley. Please put that in for the next Smash game. Also, rest in peace to Bubble Man stage, the only Robot Master stage from Mega Man 2 to not be featured in Smash for music. The stage theme is actually my favorite in the entire game, and I would have loved to hear a remix from him. But that never came to be. I'll move on now, because if I say any more, I'll just go into the corner and cry myself to sleep. Speaking about old school medleys, here is another one from the arcade games Donkey Kong and its sequel, Donkey Kong Jr. Unlike the Mega Man 2 medley, which uses a low amount of songs, this remix uses an absurd amount of themes this time around, nearly covering almost all of these arcade games' entire soundtracks and jingles, which is very impressive in my opinion. First off, the remix plays the original Donkey Kong game with its songs and jingles, which are in order: the game start theme, 25 meters, the hammer power-up jingle, bonus running out theme, the stage clear theme, 100 meters, and the all clear theme. And then in the middle of the remix, it switches over to Donkey Kong Jr. and its themes, being the game start theme, stage 1 theme, stage 4 theme, ending theme, and finally the stage clear theme before looping back over to the Donkey Kong portion of this remix. Quite the amount of themes and jingles used. This is in fact the third highest medley in Smash that uses the most amount of music, the first being the Yu Yuki medley and second being the Ocarina of Time medley, which I already covered in previous videos. Since this remix is being helmed by Yusuke Takahama, you already know that this remix was going to have this crazy synth inspired by the old arcade games, and he really did nail it for this one. Pretty much all of this track is synth composed with fast-paced exciting action in mind, being that this was made in Smash Ultimate, where fast-paced and exciting fun are meant to be had, and it's not a lie. This remix really does go hand to hand for background music in Smash. I'm actually kinda glad that whenever you play Elite Smash and the 75 meter stage is played, This remix will most likely play on that specific stage since it has the highest probability for its My Music tab by default. So, in a way, thank you bozos for not changing its My Music tabs so that this can be played. And if the original 25-meter music taken from the original Donkey Kong arcade game was the highest probability for the 75-meter stage, I would have fucking ended myself a long time ago. This remix is really synthy, however. I'm not opposed to all electronic-based music, but this really takes the cake on it being it's just so bouncy and highly intense all the way through. I really enjoyed this remix. It is very fun to be heard, and it doesn't go all over the place on its melody structure. Takahama put extra special care into making this remix, and it really shows how creative old-school music can be at times. Hoping that other arrangers follow suit and create unique remixes that resemble old games in the future for Smash. Cause, man, those ones that were at the very end of my tier list, well, they were just not impressive at all, to be put very nicely. At least I have this diamond in the rough to go back to if I want some of that old school gaming music fix. Feel like talking about more Donkey Kong remixes, so guess it's a good time as any to talk about this one, being Crocodile Cacophony from the Super NES game Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Kong Quest. This is a simple one, being that this only plays during the final boss of the game, where Diddy and Dixie Kong must fight Captain K. Rool to rescue the captured Donkey Kong. Similar to what was found in the original game, being that the theme was very foreboding and a bit on the slower side, the Smash remix has a much faster pace with a new menacing side of things, adding in electric guitar riffs and a new electronic drum beat with backing orchestra playing the melody of the piece. I really never knew I needed something like this until I first heard it back when Ultimate came out. Just like with a lot of the other remixes that were presented in Ultimate to have this intense and eerie feeling, this remix is no different. Like, holy cow, who knew music from the Donkey Kong series could be so menacing and intense from all the other Donkey Kong remixes that were already featured in Smash? Just the way that the remix was presented in this fast-paced but creepy way that you need to beat your opponent in order to survive kind of thing is something so craftily done here, and I'm very happy that this remix was made for Smash Ultimate. Really, I don't have much else to say other than this. I think this remix is neat and should be on everyone's radar, because I have a feeling like this remix is underappreciated somehow and is not being talked about a lot. Hope I did an alright job on bringing this to the light for some of y'all by putting this remix pretty high up on my tier list. Moving back over to the medley side of Smash remixes again. This will be the last medley to talk about for today, trust me. Here we have the Shin Onigashima medley. You all might be unfamiliar with Shin Onigashima, and I wouldn't blame you all for not knowing. Similar to Yu Yuki, Shin Onigashima is another game that never made it over to the West, and is part of a visual novel series that Nintendo produced back on the Famicom. What was funny for my description from the Yu Yuki medley I made a couple of videos back was that I thought that Yu Yuki, and I guess also Shin Onigashima in a way, is that I believe that these two visual novels could be localized in the West due to the Famicom detective visual novel games coming over from the West to the Switch. Well, it turns out the Famicom detective game series recently released a third title, after I made that video back in the summer of 2024, when the game wasn't even announced yet. Oof, I sure know when to pick my timings when making these videos, huh? Well, things happen though. I still hope that Yuyuki and Shin Onigashima make their Western appearances soon, even when I doubt no one will get them, unfortunately. Anyways, I stalled long enough. Time to talk about the Shin Onigashima Medley remix. Thankfully, only 2 songs are featured here in this remix. The title theme, which plays when you are at the title screen for the game, and the at-home theme, where it plays during Chapter 1, where the player is in the second hearth room for an old couple. Like I said during the Mega Man 2 medley, is that I do wish that more themes are represented here, but given that this is a game series that a lot of people are unfamiliar with, I will let it slide this time since this remix isn't very nostalgia based. But I will say this time is that the music here is just so fucking sick that I could care less. This remix literally was a good representation of my hard rock phase back in middle school, and I couldn't be anywhere else if it didn't. The epic guitar riffs, that groove and bass guitar, and the amazing drum set just all come together beautifully. We even get an amazing piano piece at the middle portion in tandem with the guitar melody, and ugh, bro, so good, I cannot even describe how cool it is. All of this music came out originally on a Famicom game, mind you, so the originality aspect is over the top for this remix. I also remember back in Brawl when this remix was featured on the summit stage, that I felt it was always so cool when the top of the summit came sliding down on the mountain. It just fits so perfectly well unintentionally that I love playing that stage and this remix whenever it happens. Other than that, the hard rock music might be a bit degrading for some, so that is why I'm putting this remix here at the 61st spot of my tier list. But everything else that this remix has to offer? Chef's kiss. Alright, time to cover more actual fighting game remixes in Smash. I still have a few more left of them to cover. For your information, a bunch of the fighting game music should be more on the higher end of the tier list, due to them from being an actual fighting games, and Smash in turn is somewhat of a fighting game itself. Should have various intense music such as this to be played almost every single time. Or at least that is my interpretation. Not gonna go any further than that cause I think I'm going to be losing some people on that note. So let's get on with this. We have This Thins Out from Tekken 6 Bloodline Rebellion, the sequel game to Tekken 6, which This Thins Out did not appear in the original game, but in Bloodline Rebellion, so don't get it confused here. Well, where does this originally play? Obviously, since this is from a Tekken game and this music is really hype and exciting, that it should be played on a stage, yeah? Well, what if I told you all that that isn't the case here? In actuality, this plays in the character selection screen of all places. Yeah, I'm dead serious. This hype-ass music plays in the fucking menu where you pick your character. When I first learned about that when doing this project, I was shocked and flabbergasted at this revelation. But then again, most fighting games have really hype music that plays on their character select screens as well, so I guess it made sense in a way. But I really wasn't expecting a Tekken remix of a character select theme in Smash. That is just really wild to me, but I'm happy that Nobuko Todo made this remix, cause goddamn, this remix slaps hard. The Smash remix plays similarly from the original theme, being an electronic approach, but with added dramatic measures off of that synth with booming electronic drums, and a very sleek electric guitar making this remix more imposing and intense than what was heard from the original. To me personally, and please don't hate me Tekken fans, I didn't really enjoy listening to the original This Thins Out all that much. So I'm happy that this theme got an updated Smash remix and is much more enjoyable to me now. The remix is also even longer than the original, with newly added music to lengthen the runtime, making it a more pleasurable experience for those long-enduring Smash matches, and I can super appreciate this in that aspect. Originally, I was going to put this Tekken remix as my favorite remix in the Smash franchise, but I decided not to do it since this remix sounds very similar to its original works. Actually, I swapped this remix with the last Tekken remix I'm going to talk about in the future. I'm sure a lot of people know which remix I'm talking about here because that last Tekken remix is quite something to say the least. Hope you all stay tuned and find out where I put that one as we continue on with the tier list. Another Mega Man remix to cover. Told you guys to get ready for that Mega Man onslaught in this top 100. Can't help that the music for this franchise is top tier compared to the rest of the other series that Smash has featured over the years. Anyways, from Mega Man 2 on the NES, we have Quick Man Stage. Well, sorta. While the opening of this remix does start with Quick Man Stage, the second part of this remix also plays Heat Man Stage, so this is another 2-in-1 remix that we got going on here. You might even call this another typo, again. Regardless, this is still a top tier remix to me personally. The remix uses a mixture of techno-synth elements and a drum beat with electric guitars, and a really neat violin solo in the middle of the Quick Man section of the remix, with the tempo increased on both sections from their original game, to make this really upbeat electronic vibe that I can jam to at times. I was super into this remix back in Smash 4, calling it my go-to favorite Mega Man remix at the time. When doing this project, however, I still like it, but I can safely say that the other two Mega Man remixes that were made in Smash 4 deem much worthier music pieces to be called my favorites now. But this remix still holds up. It's super fast-paced with intense electronic music, and I just think that it's really cool in general whenever this gets played in a Smash game. However, time takes a toll on all of us, and frankly, better music has left this remix in the dust in the Mega Man franchise, unfortunately. But I still have to give credit where credit is due. Shoto Kageyama did an excellent job with this remix, bringing in a lot of that old school Mega Man flair to the table, while adding in some really cool instruments, makes this an overall great remix to this day. Okay, so is it just me, or is it just super crazy to still talk about Wii Fit music at this point? Like, seriously, Wii Fit, of all series, shouldn't have this great of a music selection, right? Well, hate to break it to you all, but the last two of the Wii Fit remixes managed to make their way up to the top 100 spots for this tier list. And yeah, you heard me right, 2 of them. And this is the first one to talk about. This time we will go over the training menu from the game Wii Fit U. Yep, that is basically it. Very important stuff. The original theme had a more laid-back atmosphere with a light bossa nova beat. The Smash remix is the opposite of laid-back and is now 10 times faster than its original counterpart, with a new heavier electronic drum and bass style. Holy shit, that electronic drum kit and bass go hand to hand like chocolate and peanut butter. God, that is the stuff right there. But we can't forget about the synth, as it is the main instrument that provides the melody for the entirety of the remix, with bits and pieces of a piano being shown as the melody, and most notably at the beginning of the remix. I really do love those slow, dramatic openings for these Smash remixes to just get your blood pumping when a battle starts off. That feeling is eccentric, and I just love it when it happens. Can't believe that I haven't really said anything much about the opening intros for most of these Smash remixes. But yeah, really slow openings of the first few notes to the really big and fast, full loud notes to a start in a match of Smash is my fucking aesthetic. I already covered a few remixes that have this already, but just like this one, there will be more down the line as we continue on with the tier list. Not really much of a fan with all the electronic synthy style that this remix has going for, but it does it well. Seems like I've been saying that since I've been covering a lot of these known electronic synthy remixes. I think I like the synth a little bit more now than I originally thought when going through this project. Might have a change of heart after all if I'm putting these types of remixes so high up on my tier list. Well, I shouldn't ponder about that for too long. Time to go over more remixes now. Let's move on. And speaking about those synthy remixes, I guess I just can't stop talking about them today. We have Delfino Plaza from Super Mario Sunshine, which is kinda sad considering that we only have one Super Mario Sunshine remix in Smash. But anyways, this is the main hub world for the game, where Mario can traverse throughout the area of the main island town on Delfino Island. The original song was a more traditional laid-back song, which only featured these Italian guitars called mandolins and an accordion. The Smash remix also features both instruments in the melody, while also raising the tempo a bit while adding a slick new electronic synthy sounds with electronic drums and a bass line, to make it more unique than the original. Also adding on to this fact is that at the middle to ending portions of the remix, both the accordion and mandolin have new solos added to make them more distinct. Honestly, without those solos from the instruments, this remix wouldn't have been that impactful to be put pretty high up on this tier list. I'm glad that they were added, because this remix would have been a bit more lackluster to say the least. Adding in neat improvised solos to an already existing track is a welcome change, and I just love it when these new remixes take these inspirations. Makes it actually feel different from the track besides just making a brand new style or increasing the tempo to make it different in that way. You can probably tell that I'm gushing about this remix non-stop, and it is a great remix when you are on and off of playing Smash. I also have fond memories of this game back when I was a kid, so this remix feels like home to me in a way. Never really did beat Sunshine back when I was a kid though, but I came back to it when Super Mario 3D All-Stars came out on the Switch, and finally beat that game in my spare time. Coming back to this game in Delfino Plaza was such a whiplash, so I hope that I wasn't too nostalgic for this classic theme. But I guess I was a little bit. You really can't go wrong with this remix at all for a top 100 pick. Especially when one of the GOATs, Noriyuki Iwadare, arranged this remix in as one of his own, so it makes sense on why this is just a great piece of music in general. I'm gonna cover another Mario remix, cause might as well. This being the Fortress boss battle theme from the Super NES game Super Mario World. Just as the name implies, this plays when Mario confronts one of the Fortress bosses for the game, which are mostly made up by the Koopalings at the end of each world. The music in the original game was in all intents and purposes foreboding and a bit intense when duking it out across the many bosses the game had to offer. The Smash remix, on the other hand, is, well, it is definitely not what I had in mind when listening to it the first time I did. This is another one of those Spanish-influenced remixes, similar to what was found from the With Milla's Divine Protection remix I had a couple of spots back. The instruments for this remix consists of 3 main instruments for its melody: a trumpet, accordion, and acoustic guitar, and each of these instruments go back and forth throughout the entire remix. The background also has some grooving secondary acoustic guitars, a snazzy drum set, unique brass horns, and some clapping sounds for that flamenco Spanish authenticity. And then we have the vocals singing from a male who sings very similarly from a rumba style, a type of singing style primarily from Cuba. Given that this remix sounds very Spanish, the arranger, which is Ace, definitely did their homework on Spanish music when creating this remix. To tell you the truth, I was not very fond of this remix back in the day when Smash 4 came out. I even remember turning this remix off on my music tabs when setting up music for the Mushroom Kingdom U stage. And certainly the times have changed, cause after making this tier list and listening to this remix a bunch of times, in and out of Smash, I really have a growing fondness of this remix now. It is a very creative piece with lots of things going on all the time, as well as the male vocalist being present at all to begin with, is just so fascinating to me and just goes to show that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover the first time through. Give some interesting and unique pieces of work a chance, whether it be music, video games, TV shows, or any type of media, and you might just find your new favorite thing. One more Pokemon remix to talk about today, and it might just be me, but I assume a lot of Pokemon fans, and a lot of people in general, are going to be pissed about this placement for whatever reason. I can just feel it. Well, my weird assumptions aside, I'll be talking about the Battle Champion Cynthia theme from the Generation 4 Pokemon titles, Diamond and Pearl. And just as the name implies, this music piece plays when the player meets and battles the champion of the Sinnoh region, Cynthia, at the end of the game. Unlike with the synthy compressed nature of the original version found on the Nintendo DS, this remix boasts a very traditional piano-style arrangement as its main instrument, similarly like the original piece. A violin, accordion, bass drum, and clappers are found supporting the beginning of the piece as well, as some snippets of chiptune elements are littered throughout the piece that was also found from the original. Like I said before, I don't think that the chiptune elements that are playing here are a hindrance to this amazing piece. In fact, I think it complements the music here very well, making it sound eerie and a bit frightening to the first-time listeners, I believe. Well, I've only discussed the first portion of this remix. The second half of this remix features a piano and violin duet, with the piano taking the main charge. Holy crap, I never knew piano playing would be just so goddamn intense. This remix made me question my music taste, for the better I would say. The foreboding and powerful nature of the piano, while the quaint sounding and beautiful background sounds of the violin just go hand to hand. It was love at first listen, I tell you. I would have loved to put this remix higher, but I think this feels right to be put here in my tier list, unfortunately. When listening to the Smash remix and the original piece, I'm starting to understand why not a lot of fans are gravitated to this remix. The original Nintendo DS piece was way more upbeat with its electronic synthy nature, and it's much faster too. The Smash remix is really simplistic with a slower tempo, and not many instruments to be put in as a grand epic piece. This is really the same debacle I had with the Battle Gladion remix I made in the last video. But, to be honest, that's okay with me. When listening to this remix, it just makes me want to fight and put on a show. just has so much aura that I simply cannot look the other way, and keeps me on my toes the whole way through when playing a game of Smash when this theme kicks in. I hope my description got to at least one of you. Seriously, this remix is just so amazing in many ways, no matter how simplistic it may be, which is a strange thing coming from me. Although I guess the simplicity came at a cost, since I did put this remix at rank 55. This is just a really hard tier list to make together. You all have no idea what I'm going through here, but I'm doing it all for the sake of your entertainment. Well, here it is everyone. At rank 54, we have the last Mother remix to be featured on my tier list. This is Unfounded Revenge and the smashing song of praise from the critically acclaimed, Japan-only, Game Boy Advance game, Mother 3. These two songs play in specific boss battles throughout the game. First is Unfounded Revenge when Lucas and the party fights off the boss Fierce Pork Trooper. Then the smashing song of praise plays secondly when the party fights off against the Steel Mecharilla and Mecha Lion boss fights, then returns over to Unfounded Revenge for the loop. Finally, we have some good fucking music with the Mother series. Funny enough is that the entire soundtrack for the Mother series in Smash are all made up of remixes. Yeah, you heard that right. Every single song was a remix for the Smash series. This is the only franchise for Smash to feature all remix music, and not counting remixes that only displayed one song from a single one-off game, such as Glory of Heracles, Undertale, and 3D Hot Rally, just to name a few. But getting back on track, this last remix for the Mother series is just a banger. Considering that it is from a battle theme from the original game, it makes a lot of sense. I'm still pretty stumped that this is the only remix for the series that only features a battle theme in its entirety. Just imagine, adding more battle theme music from the Mother series would simply make the stages much more likable to be listened at when playing on its respective stages. Doesn't even need to be remixed at all. But I guess the silver lining is that we have at least one awesome battle theme remix to be featured, and I'm happy that this is just really good to have around. Instead of the very profound and compressed trumpet and brass horns playing the melody, with banging percussion instruments in the background from the original songs, the remix consists mostly of a synth taking the place of the melody and background instead. Unfound Revenge is mostly synth-oriented, while the smashing song of praise has a few glimpses of real instruments, such as a snare and bass drum, woodwind instruments, and a few brass horns. While I'm still not that much of a fan of the synth-like style, when I first listened to this song back when Brawl was released, I, and possibly many others, were just blown away how good this song was, and found their new favorite Mother track to listen to. Unless if it's Porky's theme, which, yeah, okay man, you have that, sure. This remix also has a much faster tempo than the original tracks, and not compressed as well, which are some great points to make this remix stand out from the original. The electric style of music is also very good and clean to take away from the original as well. I really do like this remix a lot, it's very menacing and great to listen to in battle. But after taking some hard listens, I believe that I like a few more remixes than this one now. Trust me that if Brawl was the last game in the Smash series, this remix would almost be a top 10 remix of all time, and I very much believe a lot of other people would agree with that statement as well. But as I got older, and more remix music came, I'm sorry, but it pains me to say that this remix doesn't really compare to a lot of the other remixes I still have on this tier list. You had a good run, however, Unfounded Revenge and Smashing Song of Praise. I think you will still be remembered as a top tier remix regardless of me putting you at this spot of the tier list. I will never forget you. This is another one of those remixes that kinda hurts me by putting this pretty down low in my top 100. I say that, but we're almost at the halfway point now. But I'll get to why I did so in a minute. Now let's all come together to appreciate this amazing music piece from the Super NES game Mega Man X being opening stage. This is the super iconic theme of the game's opening stage. Well, while the title to the remix is called Opening Stage, the real level name is called Central Highway, and Mega Man X must traverse it to try and stop the rampaging Reploids called Mavericks. Personally, I would have liked if this remix was called Central Highway instead, but I feel like my bias for all of these name changes are getting in the way of what is actually important, so I'll move on from that. The music in this remix replicates what was heard from the original Super NES theme, albeit a bit on the slower side. But that small bit of slowness doesn't compare to the amazing electric guitar melody that plays during this entire remix. Geez, when I first heard this remix during the Smash Direct back in August of 2018, and this plays when listing off of the assist trophies, also rest in peace to all the characters that didn't make it to the Smash roster, I was literally blown away by this epic remix that I honestly didn't care on who was part of that assist trophy lineup or not. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe we're getting some amazing music in Smash Ultimate. It was a dream come true to me, coming from Smash 4 to Ultimate. Not only the electric guitars, but the synthesized melody in the background, adding onto that guitar, is just super satisfying to listen to, not to mention those booming electronic drums, as well as an actual drum kit are playing in the background. So fucking sick. Okay, now on to my reasoning on why this isn't as high as the rest of the other remixes that come after this. While yes, this remix provides some sick-ass music, only playing this type of style of music, being hard rock, might deter a lot of people by not liking this as much as others. Yeah, what a stupid reason, I know. But playing just a hard rock style isn't very noteworthy. Besides, the remix very much replicates the original music with its hard rock attributes, so it isn't very original in that regard as well. Sorry about my stupid reasoning, but hey, I know we all can agree on why this remix is deserving of a very high to top tier status of a fantastic Smash remix. And if people don't like this one, I believe they can appreciate on why this is up here in the first place. Surprise, surprise, we have just one more Banjo-Kazooie remix to talk about today. Right now, I'm covering Mad Monster Mansion in the original Banjo-Kazooie game that was on the Nintendo 64. This plays in one of the later worlds of the game, being the world with the same name of this remix, Mad Monster Mansion. Unlike with the slow and creepy-like atmosphere that was found in the original game, this Smash remix cranks it up a notch by having an increased tempo and an electronic drum beat in the background, while having a full-blown orchestra playing the melody, with a stunning performance from a male and female choir. And it comes to no shock to many of you that I just simply adore this choir. Definitely the highlight of this remix to me at least. The first time I heard those few opening notes, I was just in heaven and knew that this was a top tier remix for sure. The upbeatness of the electronic drums are also a great standout feature as well. Honestly, another great reason why this remix is really high up is due to this instrument alone. Without it, and if the beat was played only by an actual drum set, then you might have not seen this remix so high up to begin with. Wow, I think I might be starting to see the light here with electronic instruments. While I may be singing my praises about this remix, I gotta be honest, I don't find it as enjoyable to listen to this remix in a game of Smash. Blasphemy, I know. But whenever I play this remix on Spiral Mountain or any of the Smash original stages, I don't know, something just feels off to me. The aesthetic is based off of a creepy, scary mansion, and it just puts me off that this plays on a very bright and sunny mountaintop with silly characters moving around in the background of the fight. I'm sure that some people could care less, but it really just dampens my mood, so sorry about this certain type of nitpick. I wouldn't have any problem if this remix played on the Luigi's Mansion stage. It would honestly be pretty cool if Smash had a feature that can let you play any song in any stage of the game, then all my worries would disappear. Sadly, we don't live in a perfect world. Apologies for the negative comments, but I still think highly of this great remix. If this remix fit anywhere else, then I would have put this remix somewhere in my top 20s. However, I'll be putting this here on the tier list. Now I will patiently wait for all the haters to come through my comment section now. Unless they already have beforehand. Last up for today, we have another SNK remix, and the last one from the game Samurai Showdown, being Banquet of Nature. This theme plays whenever a player confronts the character, Nakoruru, through the game's arcade mode, as well as when playing on her stage. Just like what was heard in the original theme from the Neo Geo, this Smash remix plays very similar to the original by adding in various Japanese instruments with a leading pan flute and supporting taiko drums, as well as the shamisen. Please God, let this be the last time I say that name for this video series, please. Not only are those traditional Japanese instruments here, but modern instruments as well, such as the electric and bass guitars, and a drum kit making it feel more lively and upbeat, with an increased tempo. Also, hints of string and brass instruments can be heard as well as chanting in key parts of the background, which are a great detail that I noticed when listening to this remix with some headphones on. Such a great piece overall. To be frank, I never knew this remix was filled with Japanese instruments all throughout, until doing research for this project. I know I had my fair share of distaste throughout my videos on how I believe that Japanese and Spanish instrumentation, with the awesomeness of Smash Bros. Gameplay, don't really fit together all that well. Well, I'm definitely going to shut up about that comment now because damn, this shit is awesome all the way through. If I'm going to be blunt, however, the added modern instruments being in the background, providing a very heavy and uplifting beat, was the big selling point for me and solely the reason why I have this remix so high up to begin with. Like, come on guys, be for real. Would you have listened to this remix in Smash if it was just only these Japanese traditional instruments, without some hard rock elements? I'm going to guess that some of you are going to say yes, but my point will still stand. I'm just really happy that this remix is a thing, so please no hate for this one. This remix has everything going for it, with hardly any stopping points. And the duet at the later portions with the pan flute and regular flute are just, simply put, beautiful. Pure bliss, if I might add. Highly recommend anyone to give this remix a try for a game of Smash. It surprisingly goes super well in a fight. Well, not so much in the King of Fighters Stadium stage that the remix was meant to be put on, but I found it enjoyable when listening to this remix on Ultimate's regular Battlefield stage at the very least. What's going on, you crazy goobers? Hope everyone enjoyed the video today. We really went through a lot of Ultimate remixes in this video, did we? I guess a fun fact for this tier list is that 50% of Ultimate remixes are in my top 100. To no surprise of anyone, Smash Ultimate really has the best remixes out of any game in the series. But I believe some would argue that Brawl or maybe even Melee has the better remixes out of the series. As long as we all can agree that Smash 4 had the worst remixes of the franchise, I'm sure there's no debate on that. And speaking about remixes, that will be the question for today's outro. I want to ask you all, what kind of video game music track would you like to get the remix treatment for the Super Smash Bros. Series? And what kind of musical style would you like to see it represented as? Would like to ask you all to please keep the music track you pick Nintendo related, or a third-party series that is featured in Smash. Well, since I already discussed it earlier in the video, I really wish that Bubble Man stage from Mega Man 2 was a feature song to be played as background music for Smash. It would have been super awesome to hear it with a heavy metal style of music for it. Kinda like how the Metal Man stage remix was portrayed. It would seriously make my day when the new Smash game came out and they finally made a Bubble Man stage remix. And I'm praying that it won't suck. There's a huge amount of fan-made hard rock or heavy metal covers on YouTube for this one particular theme, and pretty much all of the Mega Man 2 soundtrack too. So go ahead and give them a listen, and you'll definitely think that it would also be cool to get an official remix for this theme. And if I'm going to answer the question for a Nintendo first-party song, I'm thinking about something from the Mario Party series. Super Mario Jamboree was recently released at the time of this recording, and it is a blast to play in my spare time. And I'm thinking to myself, why hasn't there been a Mario Party remix for Smash? And any music from the game in general? We do have a few, but there aren't remixes, and besides Pandemonium, the rest of the music featured there is not memorable at all. If I had to choose a Mario Party song to be remixed, I was thinking more in line about a minigame medley of some kind for various minigame songs, cause some of them are just too good to be featured by themselves. Songs like Couldn't Be Better, Everybody Party, and All Messed Up would be perfect to be featured for a makeshift medley in a sort of jazzy musical style, or maybe a hard rock variation would be pretty cool too. I think it's fun to think outside the box like this, and I'm curious what you guys would think of this question in particular. And with that, I'll leave you all to it. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!